Good morning. I forgot my green today. So, Rosie, thank you for giving, well, now where is it? Rosie has given me this. I'm not going to put it on, but it is in my pocket to let everybody know that Pastor has his green today. Good morning. Oh, the stole is green. That's true too. Okay. Doubly green today. I'm safe. That's the good news. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Fullerton, California, an inclusive community dedicated to building a better world. I'm Reverend Robert Blair, or you can call me Rob, whoever you are, however you identify, whether you join us in person or online on Zoom or on Facebook. You are welcome. UUCF acknowledges that this land is physically situated in the original ancestral homelands of the Ahachiman, Kizh, and Tongva peoples. May we have the humility and courage to help restore what has been broken and the wisdom to live into a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Before we begin our service, a couple of little announcements for you. Following next Sunday's service is a fundraiser pasta lunch. So we want you to, well, you'll have service here, then we'll have the pasta lunch, and fire victims living with disabilities. So you don't want to miss that. Tasty Tuesday is coming up on March 25th at the Lone Wolf Brewing Company in Yorba Linda. You can RSVP to Linda, right? Linda Wolf, our Lone Wolf. Yes. All right. The Social Action Committee is hosting the Orange County Congregation Community Organization for a bridging exercise. That is on Wednesday, March 26th at 7 o'clock. The purpose is to be able to connect across race and faith traditions so that we can grow in empathy and solidarity for the future justice and racial work that is going to be needed. In fact, needed yesterday. So join us for that. Our Circle Supper coordinators are seeking people to host a meal. On April 12th and beyond, there is a sign-up sheet at the welcome table. And save the date for a fellowship dinner that is coming up Saturday, April 26th. So lots of wonderful things that are awaiting us in the next month or so. We also will be sharing our joys and sorrows a little later in the service. So if you are in the sanctuary and you'd like to share the slips, the pink slips are located in the back there. Fill them out up to around the time for all ages. If you are joining us online, we invite you to post your joys or sorrows in the comments section, as well as saying hello this morning. And now, those of you in the sanctuary are welcome to take a moment to greet one another for 1 to 2 minutes, or maybe 3.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Christina Araoka, and I'm your pianist. Tonight, I'll be playing at Parker Sighthouse in Long Beach, if you're interested, from 5:30 to 8:30. Yeah, I'm very excited. For our opening hymn, we'll be singing hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit, and join us in singing. Morning has broken, blackbird has spoken, like the first bird. Sing, praise for the morning, praise for the spring, praise from the word. Sweet rain is falling, sunlight from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wood garden, sprung in the peace where God's my name is
I now invite our worship associate, Linda Duarte Wolf, to light the chalice. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or mutual desire to please one God or many gods. Yet we are drawn together by a belief that how we are in the world, who we are together matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change the world. Please join me in saying our unison affirmation. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. Love is the doctrine that we share. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge, to serve human need, thus do we covenant with one another.
It's our custom to provide donations for non-perishable food and personal care items for Pathways of Hope, a local food bank. As the children come forward, they are asked to collect the donations placed at the end of the road. Children, time for all ages.
from your seed to you I give. Together we share, and from this we
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Josie, Stephen, for bringing up our donations. My name is Joy Ellis, and I am the RE elementary teacher. And last week, we learned about the importance of listening as people of the UU faith, and us to understand one another and to feel understood when we are listened to. And so today we're going to practice some listening with our book, Silence. In the silence, I can hear the waves crashing and the wind playing with my kite. At night, I can hear what the stars tell me. And in the morning, what the birds, when I listen, I can hear my feet when dancing, my heart when running, and my breath when still. In spring, I can hear bees loving flowers. In summer, trees chattering. In fall, leaves tumbling. And in winter, snow twinkling. Be still, listen. How many things can you hear? And so that's what you'll be hearing, hopefully, from our room. Have a good service.
Go with wisdom, go with wonder, go to create a brand new day. Learn to see the light within you as we send you on our way. Go with wisdom, go with wonder, go to create a brand new day. Learn to see the light within you as we send you on your way.
It's a joy to hear our young ones say yippee when they're going to RE, right? That is a joy. Those joining us online are invited to share in all caps a joy or a sorrow in the comment section. So if you would like to do that, please do that. Linda Duarte Wolf will light a candle for those sharing online, and those in the sanctuary will be invited to come forward to light your own candle. We begin by lighting a candle for all our concerns for the larger world, our wish for peace and justice, our hopes for the children who will inherit this planet. May this candle represent all the wishes that we can articulate in this space. And now let us share those joys and sorrows.
My name is Jerry Wolf. I'm the other half of Linda, and I want to share a really joy with you. We just celebrated our 37th wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
We've got Cruz tea celebration. Mary says it was wonderful. Happy New Year. Circle supper last night. Umbriaco says, thank you to everyone. We had so much fun. At Nauruz, we collected over $500 for the general fund. Any other joys or sorrows this morning? Okay. We now light one more candle for all the joys, concerns, and sorrows that remain unexpressed but are still held close to our hearts. And now please join in saying the affirmation. We join you in celebrating your joys May you feel our love and compassion for your sorrows and concerns. For all that is spoken and unspoken, may the caring of our beloved community sustain us all.
Thank you, Christine. Doesn't she do a beautiful job? Let's give her another hand.
Thank you.
Let us now move into the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer. You may close your eyes, take a deep breath, whatever helps you find your center. Feel grounded and safe in this space. This reading is by Douglas Taylor. It's called Meditation on Courage and Vulnerability. I am learning to let down my guard. We all know about the instinct to respond to stress with either flight or fright, with force or swift retreat, with decisive attack or prompt withdrawal. When faced with stress or difficulty or challenge, I am learning to let down my guard. I am learning to be vulnerable. I am seeking the courage to be open. I would have my vulnerability be a choice made from my courage rather than my fear. I would have my vulnerability be my strength. May my strength be not found as a hard shell of defense or a sharp weapon or of attack. May my strength instead be found in an open stance of kindness and empathy, like a tree bending gracefully in the storm. May my strength be found in a willingness to join in the suffering of others, like a forest of trees, together in a storm, stronger together. May I choose to be receptive rather than protected, sharing rather than shielded. In this way, may I face my own suffering and passion. In this way, may my vulnerability be an invitation for others to meet me in the open field with a yearning for understanding and peace. I know this is a risk. I know I may be hurt. I know things may not go well. But still, I will seek the courage to sit the barbed judgment of others. I will seek within myself the strength to stand exposed and unguarded before the world, in the wind, open to difficulty. Not because I cannot be any other way, but because I have chosen this better way. I am still learning to be vulnerable. I seek the courage to be so vulnerable. May have others who will help me be so courageous. May my example serve you as well as myself, and may my strength be our strength in sharing this life openly with others. Beautiful, Christine. I'd love to just repeat those two authors of that song, Thelonious Monk and Cootie Williams. It just kind of rolls off your tongue. Thelonious Monk and Cootie Williams. I learned an Irish toast on Friday at the Elks, and I'm abbreviating it just for this purpose, but there are small ships, there are tall ships, but there are no ships like friendships. Learn to Love by Marianne Williamson. A miracle is a shift in perception from fear to love, from a belief in what is not real to faith in that which is. That shift in perception changes everything. Love is what we are born with. Fear is what we learn. The spiritual journey is the unlearning of fear and prejudices and the acceptance of love back in our hearts. Love is the essential reality and our purpose on earth.
During the summer months, there are often news stories about bears being caught on video, taking dips in backyard swimming pools to get relief from the heat. Oftentimes, you see the mother bear with her cubs. In fact, take a look at this. As you may see, there's a little blue packet in the bear's jaws. That is a bear who is known for breaking into homes in Monrovia and stealing Oreos. And my husband and I live in Monrovia, near the foothills. And this bear, not Winnie the Pooh famous, has become very famous. And they've nicknamed him Oreo. This, usually with the reporter telling viewers to not feed the bears. Seems pretty straightforward not to do that, because when these furry beasts make themselves at home or in the pool, they don't want to be bothered. This is mainly for park goers also who come in contact with bears and want to throw them a snack. But the message is, why? Well, feeding bears can cause a sense of domestication. That means if you start feeding them, they're going to remember you and keep coming back for more. Feeding bears can change their nature and bring them out of the wilderness into communities, and bears need to stay in the woods. Feeding bears and feeding fears have some similarities to them. If you feed a bear, he's going to come back. And if you feed fears, those fears can return over and over and can take hold in our minds. Sometimes running lives and running relationships. Tuned into MSNBC as the cable news channel covered the last presidential race. And people not only watched, but they were glued to their screens or on their phones, hours upon hours a day. There was a sense of hope that the vice president, that candidate, would win, while also a sense of fear in the alternative. Every day saw endless analysis of poll numbers and what ifs. What if she wins? What if he wins? MSNBC's ratings were through the roof. Then came the election. And the day after, MSNBC's ratings plunged by more than 50%. Why? Because people had enough. The election was over. There was immense disappointment, and people, you Get that feeling? You remember that feeling? Exhausted, disappointed, left-leaning viewers of the progressive-leaning news source could not take any more. Ratings in the toilet, which is incredibly sad for MSNBC, but a sign of hope for the sanity of those who were glued to the screens, ingesting the 24-hour news cycle in a year leading up to the election. But ultimately, people came to the realization that they could not ingest anymore. In fact, I had a family member say watching the news was like ingesting poison and feeding fears of what if. Quote, news of the election dominated my life the entire year of 2024. It's like the fears about the election accompanied by nonstop news set up shop in my mind. The first thing I did in the morning, turn on the TV. Last thing I saw at night was MSNBC. I watched it more than I spent time with my relatives. It was out of fear that I watched, and I am not going to lose any more of my life to that fear. Now, this relative gets news updates on her phone now. Just those little screen updates that you get. She said, I can stay informed, but I don't need to see how the sausage is made and lose any more of my life. She said that although the political scene is awful, her relationships are actually stronger. Pretty good advice, huh? Don't feed the bears. Don't feed the fears. They'll never leave because they will set up shop in our minds and can rob us of living meaningful and centered lives. The purpose of a spiritual life, the purpose of our spiritual practice is to discipline our thoughts, to keep us in the now, in the present, and ultimately that can cause a shift from a life dominated by fear to one of love. Because if you think about it, the opposite of love is not hate. No. Opposite of love is fear. And fear is the ultimate source of hate, right? The excerpt you heard Linda beautifully read was written by Marianne Williamson, who tackles all of this in her 1992 book, A Return to Love. Actually, in the top 2 for me of my favorite books. In the book, she teaches from a set of books called A Course in Miracles, and the course is actually a psychological and spiritual discipline. It says that there are just 2 emotions in life. Now remember, this is a discipline, not the reality, right? 2 emotions, fear and love. That or thinking can be categorized in one of those 2. So when you're thinking thoughts of worry and doubt and lack and limitation and resentment and anger and jealousy, that all comes from a place of fear. But if you're thinking thoughts of hope and trust and joy and peace, then you're coming from a place of love. And so the purpose of the spiritual life, Marianne Williamson says, is a return to love. As she says, love is what we are born with. Fear is what we learn. Williamson says, fear is an illusion and that love is the only thing that's real. And then I thought about this. Have you all heard this before? Fear stands for false events appearing real, or false evidence appearing real. I like that, because those what ifs do feel real. What if my husband gets sick? What if I don't have enough money for retirement? Those things haven't happened, but they feel real in our minds and our bodies. And if we are not grounded in the now, we are feeding our fears. If we are in the future with what ifs, we are feeding fears, and our minds can take us to some very scary places. This is why breaths, focusing awareness of our bodies in the present, staying centered and grounded. This discipline can actually starve fears, peace, and love. Otherwise, fear is going to take over. And you know what? In most religious philosophies, fear can be the first thing that we think of when we wake up. Not a good way to start our days, right? Well, in religious philosophies, morning time is the most holy. It is the anchor of the day, the foundation upon which we build our days, and yet for many of us in Los Angeles, it can be the most stressful, right? Wake up, jump in the shower, make sure the kids are ready, jump in the car, turn on the radio, and listen to some news and the all-important traffic report, fearful of an accident that's going to make us late, then get stuck in traffic, and then finally arriving to work, sitting down, out of breath, and wondering why we're so flustered. For many of us, our mornings can be based on fear. If that's your foundation of a morning, then that is not good for the rest of the day. Williamson says mornings are the most important. If you have a lot to do, wake up about 15 minutes earlier in order to have time for meditation and prayer, maybe write in a gratitude journal. And that is the foundation of love upon which to build your day. I entered into the education field late in 2019, starting to work at a high school in Duarte. And the punitive ways of teaching and handling students that I experienced in the 80s and 90s, those don't go over. Of using fear as a weapon, punishing or banishing students with behavioral issues. Teachers and students who have had run-ins go through what's called restorative practices. This is also happening in businesses as well. One day, my student, we'll call him James. James started being tardy for class. Then he'd disappear for 20 minutes or so for bathroom breaks. He was sleeping through lectures and his grades were slipping. And when I approached him one day, he got angry. Why are you picking on me? I haven't done anything to you. Why don't you just keep teaching and not worry about what I do? And then he yelled out 2 choice cuss words at me and stormed out the door. You can probably hear him. I have an idea of what those words were. Would have at least gotten suspended, maybe expelled, because he showed disrespect and cursed a teacher out. But what would that do to James? Him out of the classroom, maybe out of the school, and away from a learning environment, and leave him isolated. So I reached out to Dr. Williams. She's a specialist in our school. She's trained in restorative practices. And the next day, James, Dr. Williams, and I sat down together in a safe space. Restorative circles or gatherings were given time to speak about the happenings of the day and time to listen. Dr. Williams told James that he wasn't in trouble and that whatever was going to be discussed in the room stayed in the room. You may not like this idea. It took a lot for me to get used to, too. But James sat there for a minute and he apologized. Told me that life in his home right now, James said, my dad and mom are getting divorced, plus they're never home, and I'm stuck taking care of my two little brothers. I don't have much time for school, and my parents don't have much time for us. I'm not getting any sleep, and I am just angry. Tears ran down James' face, and I offered him a tissue. And that's the point where fear turned into love. I'm so sorry, James. You have a lot on your plate right now, and I'm so grateful. We're so grateful that you shared this with us. Know that you can always come to me when things are getting too rough. More so than not, these restorative practices not only turn a fearful situation to a loving situation, but actually strengthen relationships between students and teachers who go through these practices. I can tell you of 2 other students who I've been through restorative practices with, who I am closer to now than the students who have not had issues. Now that's a miracle. From fear to love. Restorative practices foster environments where fears turn into vulnerability and sympathy and empathy and deeper connection and love. And out of something that would have just ended with an isolated, hurting child in the 80s has now turned into a student who trusts and is thriving. The ways of the 80s and 90s fed fear and hurt kids, especially kids who needed love. That's why it's not only schools who have implemented restorative practices, but yes, workplaces are doing the same. From high school students to senior citizens now, we live in a culture right now that can be very isolated. And from statistics, we know that loneliness is at its highest point in a long time for many. The lonelier we are, the easier it is to give into fear. That is why being in community, in a fellowship and community of faith is so vital. I mean, sure, it's great to have a circle of friends, but true community is about something more profound than that. When we are in fellowship with people who share our values, they affirm a part of who we are. And it's not just about our relationships with one another, but what we are called to do with one another. And that is we are called with one another to make the world a better place. Part of a common fear I hear right now is, I want to make this world a better place. I just don't know what to do, how to do it. Help me, Pastor. It's the fear of not knowing what to do to help in these historic moments that is scaring many of us. Well, there's a lot to do at UUCF in the months ahead. And many of the things that we do have to do with listening. Listening is an important part of doing. You can listen and learn with the Disability Rights Panel and this discussion coming up next week after the services. And then on Sunday, March 29th, we welcome a speaker from the transgender community. Her name is Tricia. She's not only going to tell her story, but how we can help the most targeted group of people right now in this dangerous time. Then it's almost April, or it's actually April, and we kick off a pledge drive, which will fund this movement of love to strengthen our church and its programs so that we can meet this moment and the moments of the next year with the energy and conviction and love and intention it deserves. UCF is special because we are a community of love and hope. It is all too easy to feel alone, to feel afraid, to feed those fears, to have concerns about the future that might even spill over into anxiety and depression. But against the storm, our faith community, group of people who affirm the same values and live them out, arises. A group that proclaims hope and love in times of fear. So with all of this, watching MSNBC, dealing with students who just need some love, and being in community, we all return to the book by Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love. As Williamson writes, and Linda read before, and we're going to read it again, love is what we are born with. Fear is what we learn. The spiritual journey is the unlearning of fear and prejudices and the acceptance of love back in our hearts. Love is the essential reality, and love is our purpose on earth. And how blessed are we to be in a community of love where we can do this together.
Unitarian Universalism is the grand vision of a world filled with peace, justice, love, and joy. That vision depends upon each one of you. By your financial commitment, you help make that grand vision real and help this congregation maintain and grow our ministries and our community. A basket's being brought around, or you can see payment options on the screen. Whatever you are able to give is received with sincere and heartfelt gratitude. Your commitment and generosity to this community is so appreciated.
For our closing hymn, we'll be singing hymn number 95, There is More Love Somewhere. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit and join us in singing. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Today, our caring listener is Donette Giltonen. You can speak with Donette after the service if you have any concerns or would simply like someone to talk to, and trust that what you share is always more love, more peace somewhere. And sometimes it's as close as in your heart. Our job is to take it out into the world that needs more love right now than any time I've seen before. We now, if you would like to join hands, we now extinguish this chalice, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts wherever we may go. Say with me, amen, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. Now we will start singing in a round. You want to start? Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere.